Alrighty, everybody. It is currently Friday, December 12th, 2025, and I'm coming at you live from a prison in a backyard in South Africa. That's going to be one of our news stories today. This episode probably isn't going to be the most, you know, nice, fun episode we've had. So I found a nice, funny African story that we could talk about because those boys are always getting up to some fun mischief. They're always getting up to something like that. Um, but today's episode may be a groggy one. It may be, you know, just a general lack of thought, but not the typical general lack of thought that these episodes usually contain because I took a nap today. And I did an episode. I don't remember if it was specific to naps or if it was a current events episode where I mostly talked about naps, but I did do an episode where I gave you guys a quick rundown of the rules regarding naps. Um and I think in that episode, I don't remember specifically what I said, but I remember saying something to the effect of it's not a recharge, it's a reset. You know what I mean? That is what the purpose of a nap is. You're just really quickly turning your brain on and off for a second, like restarting your phone or whatever. That's what a nap is supposed to be. And I think I gave a specific amount of time. I think ultimately what I said was try to keep it under an hour at the absolute most. This one I took today was uh, I don't remember the exact times, which tells you how extreme of a nap this was, but somewhere between 1.5 to 2 hours is how long this nap was. And so, I gotta go hand up on that play. And I gotta say, hey coach, that one's on me. I have to take responsibility for when I fuck up, and I did fuck up because I took way too long of a nap today. I didn't set an alarm on my phone. I had my curtains drawn on my window, which I thought would be enough um, to keep the nap within regulation, but it wasn't. It wasn't enough to do all those things. So I took a very groggy nap. And once again, this is where you kind of got to take responsibility for these things. Went into the shower, took a nice regular shower, then blasted myself with cold water towards the end there, to really wake myself up and really, you know what I mean, kind of null the grogginess from that nap. And the other thing that comes with the territory of a long nap is I'm probably going to be up pretty late tonight. And this is a nap tip. I guess not maybe a nap tip, but a general sleep tip for the people out there. You got to hop on that shit right away. You know what I mean? You can't be like, "Oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow." There's no procrastinating when it comes to sleep. If you see your sleep schedule starting to get fucked up, you're just going to have a tired day. You know what I mean? Because you got to hop on that to correct that situation immediately. Immediately, that situation must be corrected. You got to wake up at 9 in the morning, groggy as hell, penis fully shriveled and small. You know what I mean? And hop out of bed and just be tired for the entire day. And that's what you have to do in order to correct those situations. I feel like I did a decent job correcting this nap. This is my post nap conference, NFL players have post game conferences. I have post nap conferences where I speak about the validity of the nap and kind of all the things that went into doing it and really give you guys a breakdown. Um, yeah, I might have to start watching game film or something like that. Which there is that for sleep. That's what like those sleep apps are, where they like track when you snore or when you like wake up or whatever, or like those bands that people wear, the Fitbits or whatever. That's basically just game film for sleep. You know, it's people just don't call it that, and I think if we did start calling it things like that, then people might take it a little bit more seriously. People would it would be viewed more as a masculine thing, which that's a that's like a big phenomena that exists in like modern culture is like unnecessarily like masculinizing things. I don't know if that's the right word, but you guys know what I mean. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like I think one of the best examples of that is the Black Rifle Coffee Company. I think that's one of like the prime examples of just for no reason at all. It's coffee has been drunk for like 10,000 years. And all of a sudden they're like, "No, we got to make it tactical. This is tactical coffee. If you just if you drink this coffee, then you could fucking invade a town in Afghanistan, you know? Like that's like that type of shit. But it also it exists in all sorts of different things where they're just unnecessarily being like, we need to make this like tactical or masculine or whatever, right? Like with the Joe Rogan kettlebell, and it's like a kettlebell with like an angry gorilla's face on it, and it's like this is what men use for kettlebells, and it's like, dude, that thing weighs like 30 pounds, you know? It's just a 30-pound kettlebell. The fact that a gorilla's face is on it doesn't doesn't do anything for it. It doesn't, make it a more masculine activity, which I hate to say it because I know there's some people out there that really like the kettlebell workouts. Um, and really, it's just the type of workout that they enjoy, and they've got jacked doing it. And there are people more jacked than me, which it's not necessarily an accomplishment, but there's people more jacked than me out there who use like kettlebell workouts and stuff like that. But I understand. I'll just say this: I understand why they're trying to make it masculine. I understand kind of what they're going for with that one because all these kettlebell workouts I see, they're like they're very like just feminine. Like there's that one everyone's like the Joe Rogan working out clips are they're all fucking hilarious. He makes the funniest fucking faces. But there's that one of him doing like the snatch with the kettlebell and he like pushes his ass out like he's a bad bitch or whatever. And like the swinging it between your legs and stuff like that. I understand the drive or like the want to make kettlebells seem more masculine because I just feel like there's a they're like a weird in between. You know what I mean? Between like free weights and like machines and stuff like that. Even though they're not, a kettlebell is just a different form of a free weight. But I do feel like it's kind of an in between there where it's like free weights are like that's like raw, real fucking lifting. You know what I mean? And then you have machines on the other hand, which, while maybe not necessarily feminine, they're not they're more like sciency or whatever. Like that's what I think when I see the machines, which is fine, but it's not exactly what I'm looking for. And then you have kettlebells, which people really you're moving weight, right? Like that's what you're doing when you work out or when you're doing a kettlebell workout, right? You're moving weight. So I know you're exercising. I can tell you that, but I don't understand it at all. I really don't get it at all. And that to me, like that just general like confusing like just like the unnecessarity of it. I don't know if that's a word, unnecessarity, but you guys know what I mean. Like that aspect to it makes it seem feminine, because there's nothing more feminine than just what the fuck are you doing that's weird and unnecessary, right? There's nothing more feminine than looking at something and just being confused by its general existence, right? Like that's how I feel about most chick shit, where I just look at it and I go, what is this? What am I looking at? This it just doesn't make sense in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think even if you tried your damnedest to explain it to me, it still wouldn't make sense to me, right? And I feel that way about kettlebells. So yeah, I get the drive to make them more masculine, but I think in doing that, you expose the lack of masculinity in them, uh, because trying to be masculine isn't masculine. I don't know. It's just how I feel about kettlebells. I'm just a free weights guy. I always have been. I've always been, and maybe it's because I'm dumb or whatever, and like free weights are pretty straightforward. But like machines, I look at it and I go, we got like three cables go. Like, what's the purpose of the three cables here? And then the other thing you have to deal with machines in the gym is like there's pulleys and shit, and somehow that makes the weight half the weight or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a fucking physicist, but it, I don't know. I just don't like the machines too much either. I like them for like maybe some leg workouts, but like arm workout, nah. You got to be doing the free weights with that. Maybe a machine, preacher curl here and there, or a machine shoulder press. But I mean, other than that, we got to be doing free weights, guys. All right, it's just what it is. Or a tricep pull down. That's also acceptable in my book. But when we're hooking up like three different fucking handles and carabiners with each other, looking like we're climbing El Capitan or whatever, I start to have an issue with the machines. I start to have an issue with them. Um, and yeah, issues with the machines. That's nothing new. You know what I mean? AI and shit like that. I don't know. I was just trying to make a shitty joke there. Like I said, the nap didn't go as planned, and it's very disappointing. Um, but it's winter break, so I've been home. I've been home for a day. Feels like it's been a month already. It feels like I fully embraced the fucking home for winter break life already, which that just goes to show you my skill in terms of chillaxing and being a general lazy piece of shit. It just shows how skilled I am in that realm. For other people, it takes a while for them to adjust to it. Some people, they just love going to the gym and going to school and doing all that shit and working hard so much that it takes them a while to adjust to this life. But I'm just so talented when it comes to laying around all day. you know, I'm just so good at it, so skilled at it that I've fully embraced the life. And I think it's easier to do that on winter break than it is, during summer break or whatever. Because on winter break, it's like, all right, it's 30 degrees outside. The fuck am I going to do? I'm going to go out fishing. The fish aren't moving, dude. The fish are also doing what I'm doing and just like laying at the bottom of the lake right now. All right. But since I've been home, I started watching the TV show Prehistoric Planet, which, if you don't know, they say it's like a planet Earth, but for like dinosaurs and stuff like that. But the thing that makes Planet Earth is the fact that these people are going out and like covering themselves in leaves and ghillie suits or whatever, and filming orangutans and like birds of paradise and stuff like that, right? Like that's what makes Planet Earth Planet Earth. This is like a CGI recreation of what people maybe think dinosaurs did. And and so it's not planet Earth, right? Because it's not the actual behavior of these dinosaurs. We really have no idea. Like we don't even know what these dinosaurs look like. Every 6 months they're like the T-Rex didn't actually look like that. The T-Rex actually had six legs or whatever. Like that's what we're dealing with, so we don't even know what they look like, let alone what they acted like, right? And that's kind of the premise of the show, is that this is a look into the prehistoric planet and what dinosaurs acted like. And it's like, dude, we don't even know what the motherfuckers looked like, let alone what they were doing. They weren't writing that shit down or whatever. It's not like with humans, like I don't know, King Tut or whatever, right? Like there's that weird argument that I think only exists on the internet where it's like the ancient Egyptians were white, or no, they weren't white or whatever, right? So we don't really know what they look like too terribly much, but we do know what they were doing because they were writing it down. The same, this might be hard to believe, but the same cannot be said for dinosaurs. All right, they weren't whipping out the little T-Rex claw and like doing some cuneiform on a tablet or whatever like in ancient Mesopotamia. Um, but the show is just it's entertainment, and it's an entertaining show. It's sick to just watch dinosaurs like walk around and all that stuff and like be animals as opposed to, like the Jurassic Park view of it or whatever. But the really weird thing about this show is that it anthropomorphizes the dinosaur so much. And I understand that like in Planet Earth traditionally they anthropomorphize the animals a lot, but they can only do it so much, right? Because in Planet Earth, they're just going out and recording the animals and like looking at what they're doing, right? Or they're like recreating it in like a studio or whatever. But in most of those instances, right, where they're recreating it, it's just like a bug crawling or some shit like that. So they can only anthropomorphize the animals so much because they're still recording the animals in like their day to day life or whatever. But with this show, they're able to manipulate what the animals actually do, right? And because of that, there's like some very some very odd things in this show that maybe I'm just like being weird about it, but it seems weird to me, some of the things I've seen. Um And the main one that I can recall is so this T Rex, he kills a Triceratops and he's eating the Triceratops, but he's got like this gash on him. So he goes to the water to get a sip of water. And then this chick T Rex pulls up. And at first you're like, oh, are these two T Rexes going to fight each other? No, they're not fighting. They're fucking. Right. And so these two T Rexes, they go to fuck each other. And and so it's like they get into the mating position, right? Which is the chick T Rex lays down on the ground while the dude T Rex, I don't know how it works. Anatomically, I don't know how it works, but the dude T Rex is behind the chick T Rex, right? Which is traditionally, you look across the animal kingdom, typically how it goes. It's kind of like it's almost like a prone bone position is what these two T Rexes are doing, right? They can't do doggy or whatever because their arms are too short. So it's a T Rex prone bone, and so the dude T Rex, he's getting up in that T Russie. You know what I mean? He's digging up in there like he's looking for a fossil or some shit like that. And he's fucking the female T Rex, and the female T Rex kind of like looks back at him and is like, it's hard to describe without actually watching it. And I don't know if you want T Rex sex on your phone, that T sex. I don't know if you guys want that on your Google search history. But the way it does it, the way the chick T Rex like looks back and goes like, "Hey, don't do it like that," right? Is so, it was so like weird and like human to me, and I was just like, this isn't how like animals do it. You know what I mean? Like the fact that the idea that this was all consensual in the first place is pretty crazy, but the idea that the chick T Rex was like looking back at him while he was fucking her from behind is crazy. It's weird. And the other weird like sex thing that they did that I noticed was, so there was like these pterodactyl type things, but they weren't like regular pterodactyls. They had like these kind of like these deer antlers on the back of their heads, right? And like only the dudes had them though. Only the dudes had like these big. It was like a fork. It was like a two pronged deer antler directly on the back of its head. And so the pterodactyls, they get together on top of this mountain or whatever, and the dudes have like the alpha dudes have like their own territory, and they're putting on like these displays for the female pterodactyls. I don't remember what they were called. I'm just gonna call them pterodactyls, and where they like spread their wings and stuff, and they go up to like a chick pterodactyl that they're like, "Yo, I want to bone that chick pterodactyl," and they spread their wings, and then the chick pterodactyl's like, "I want to bone you or I don't want to bone you," and so that's kind of the setup for the situation. But amongst the female pterodactyls, there's some little like manlet ones, like me, dude. There's some manlet pterodactyls out there that don't have like the big antler thing on the back of their head, right? They don't have that. And so they're kind of like sneaking around like among the females, right? Trying to not get noticed by the dudes with the big antler things. And one of them, so the dude with the big antler goes up and tries to fuck this chick pterodactyl, shows her his wings and all that stuff, and is like, "Dude, I'm powerful as hell. Like, look at how big my wings are, or whatever." And she's like, "No, I don't want to fuck you." And then she ends up fucking like the little pterodactyl dude, right? The one without the big antler thing. And once again, with the T Rex situation, she like kind of like looks back at him and like clicks her beak or whatever. Like, "Oh yeah, I like." Like, once again, maybe I'm just like a disgusting pervert and I'm just reading into this too much, but it seemed weird to me, right? Those were the two instances that seemed very weird to me, but I do appreciate the manlet appreciation that they showed, even if it was just in dinosaur form. They showed some appreciation of the manlets, and they were like, the manlet is a powerful build, and it exists in all species across all of time. That's kind of what they were saying. That's what like David Attenborough basically said with the whole like little sneaker pterodactyl thing, because he was sneaking around the little pterodactyl without the antlers. He was like sneaking around, being like, "Hey, you trying to get active?" But he couldn't do the full thing, so he kind of had to go up to him and like talk to him a little bit and like squawk at him or whatever, which yeah, I appreciate the manlet representation from prehistoric planet. Even if it was just a pterodactyl, I do, you know, I just got to give him a shout out and say, hell yeah, dude. Showing some love to the manlets there. But I mean, yeah, it's a decent show overall. But once again, people being like, fucking, I know how dinosaurs acted. No, you didn't. All right, can we stop fucking pretending we knew how goddamn dinosaurs acted? We don't know. We don't even know if they were like warm or cold blooded or whatever. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty good show. I'm on season 2 right now, uh, and I'm waiting because I don't want to watch it all at once. The next one's about the Ice Age, which should be pretty sick. I did that episode about the animals with the in the Paleogene or whatever, so I'm hoping we get a shout out from a couple of those guys in there. If not, that's also cool. Um, yeah, but it's winter break. Uh, I don't know. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk about, but it involves one of my boys, and so I don't know. I don't want to fucking dox him or whatever. I don't. I don't want to fuck him up. Um, so I guess my next topic outside of the news that I was like thinking about this week was Ted Kaczynski. I watched Wendigoon's video about Ted Kaczynski, and I don't know how I feel about that guy. Like I look at Wendigoon and just something about him, like the way he looks to me. And I don't know how else to say this, so I'll just say it. Like he looks like the type of guy who like would have got bullied in high school and maybe did a little bit, but then someone found out he had a hot sister and like they stopped bullying him. Like that's 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 the look that guy has. Right? That's just what he looks like to me. It looks like I would like, or not me. I wasn't a bully, but like someone that I definitely knew like would have like shoved him in a locker or like threw a basketball at his face or some shit like that. But then, his hot sister would come up and be like, "Hey, don't be mean to my brother." Like I don't know how it's just how he looks to me. I've never seen someone who like so strongly has that look. Um, but I was watching his video about Ted Kaczynski, and I've seen a few other things about Ted K. I watched his I think it was Netflix did a doc, and I'm sure Netflix has done 1,000 documentaries about him. So pick one at random, and I watched one of those documentaries about Ted Kaczynski. Um, and I was like a big Ted Kaczynski guy, and so when I watched this documentary, they kind of talked about how gay he was, and I was like, whatever, like, fuck off. You're just talking shit about the guy because you're part of the institution that he wanted to destroy. And I knew that he wasn't really effective and didn't really like go after the right people exactly, but I was still like, I was still fucking with the guy pretty heavy. And then I watched this video, and like one of the main things that Wendigoon does in this video is he talks about like the actual journals that Ted Kaczynski wrote, and it was just like the most like saddening realization ever. Like I knew that Ted Kaczynski wanted to be trans or whatever, but then I also find out that like he went to like the psychiatrist appointment to like get his dick cut off, which I mean, I wish we still had those. I wish we still I wish you still had to see a psychiatrist before you get your dick cut off. But hey, this is America. This is as much as you want to hate on the trans ideology or whatever, this is America. So if you wake up in the morning, you say, "Hey, I want to get my cock and balls cut off and turned into like this weird rotting pseudo vagina," then that's your right to do. But he was talking about that, how Ted Kaczynski went to the trainee fucking mind reader or whatever. I don't know what it's called, but he went to that, and he was so like mad that he went to that he wanted to kill the doctor or the psychiatrist or whatever, and he like blamed the psychiatrist for like existing, I guess. And I was like, God, okay, he's a little bit gay. And then he starts going over more and more about his journal. And so Ted Kaczynski moves to the middle of the woods in Montana, and he doesn't really live around anyone. Like there's a few people near him, and one of the things that's near him is this sawmill. And obviously he's a big nature guy. Um, and so he really hates the sawmill, which that's kind of retarded in and of itself, but and so he's talking about how much he like hates the sawmill or whatever, and you're like, okay, that's fair. That makes sense. This guy's really into nature. He doesn't want to see trees get cut down, especially in like the middle of Montana, where that's maybe a place you'd be more inclined to preserve or whatever. And then Ted Kaczynski just starts talking about how much he wants to like kill the 3-year-old daughter of the fucking of the fucking sawmill. And at first, when he was doing the video and he was talking about the 3-year-old daughter, I was like, oh, is Ted K really gonna? Is he really gonna be that guy? Like I thought he was gonna be a pedophile for a second. No, he just wanted to kill the kid, which I don't think that's any better. I mean, it's right on par. It's a flip of the coin in terms of which one is worse, in my personal opinion. I don't know. Ultimately, killing is worse, but they're very close to each other, at least from my point of view. And so we got the trans thing, we got the wanting to kill the 6-year-old, or not even 6, the 3-year-old little girl, right? Which that's not even. I, I've talked about this so many times, but if you're gonna be a serial killer, I want to see at least an impressive resume from you, right? I want to see a group of people and be impressed by the fact that you killed them. Like, killing a 3-year-old girl is not impressive in any way, shape, or form, especially the way he was going to do it, right? He wanted to shoot her with his rifle. Um, it, you know, that's not impressive to me. I want to see something impressive. I want to see you rolling up with a pair of brass knuckles and beating Arnold Schwarzenegger's head through the back of his skull, right? Like, that's what I want to see out of you. I don't want to see, you know, drugging somebody and throwing them in the back of a van, or like, what was that other guy's name? It was another Ted. Ted Bundy. That's his name. Like, I'm not impressed by what he did. He like pretended to have a broken arm and then like hit chicks in the back of the head with a crowbar. I'm not impressed by that. You know, even Dahmer. I'm not impressed by Dahmer because he was like drugging him and stuff before he did it. You know, I'm not impressed by any of that. None of those kills really impressed me too terribly much. Like I said, if you were doing like melee combat with a dude, you like throw him a baseball bat, and then you take a baseball bat yourself and you have like a fucking lightsaber duel. Okay, you know, not saying you should do that, but if you're gonna be a serial killer, then do it that way. Um, but yeah, so Ted Kaczynski was pretty gay, and then he's talking later about like how Ted Kaczynski like got the property in the first place, and how he fed himself with it when he lived there, and it was like he mooched off his parents and brothers the entire time. And so at that point, I was like, I was fully off the Ted K train. I was fully against him. You know, like, in the thing about all that is that it's hard to find like a radical person that you can idolize, because typically the only people who are going to like engage in like maybe necessary radical activity even are people who are already insane in the first place. And I think that's why people kind of gravitate towards Luigi Mangione so much. Like, I'm not like a lib or anything, right? But I do think that if you have diabetes, you should still be able to live. I don't know, maybe that's like a bit of a lib opinion. Um, but like, I think the reason people fuck with Luigi Mangione so much is because what he did was, it was gangster as fuck. Like, anyone who's seen that video, that shit was stone cold. The way he did that shit, was some straight up John Wick hitman shit. Rolls up, he's got like the gray hoodie on. He's not being too flashy or anything. Rolls up on his ass. He's got the 3D printed silencer on the gun, shooting him. The gun ends up, the shell doesn't eject, right? So he has to keep pulling the slide back like he's shooting a fucking revolver or some shit like that. It's stone cold. And he got someone, he did it like face to face with the guy. He wasn't like, you know, on some bullshit where he was like 300 meters away with a high powered rifle or whatever. He's face to face with the guy, shoots him, dips. If he was the guy that did that, I've expressed my opinion before that I don't necessarily believe it was Luigi Mangione who did that. And he got a good guy, you know. That, I think that's why people gravitate towards him so much, is because he did everything right. And he's hot on top of that. He's a pretty decent looking guy on top of all that. So that's, I think, why people gravitate towards him so much. And I think we got to have that for the environment, you know. We got to have someone who does it well. We got to have someone like that. We got to have like a hot guy, you know, preferably even a hot chick. I feel like that might be the ultimate, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get there. That does seem like a little bit, you know, unrealistic of an expectation. Maybe I should just become like an agent, but for like terrorists, or like specifically eco terrorists. I think maybe that's what I should do. You know what I mean? Like, I have a meeting with some guy and he's like, there's this Exxon like refinement plant or whatever, and I have some C4 and I want to go blow it up, and I'm like, I can't take you on as a client. You know, if you maybe if you get a nose job or something like that, that I could take you on, but son, you just don't have the look. All right, sorry, it is the way it is. And so we got to get like a nice hot guy, does a plan, does it well, doesn't go after like some, like that's the thing about Ted K. Like why he was such a bitch is because he was going after, like, he killed like a computer store owner. Like that's the type of people he killed. The only dude that he got that was even like remotely like okay, like fair enough. The only dude was like a guy who worked at a marketing agency who represented ExxonMobil after like an oil spill or something like that. Like that was the closest he fucking got. So we got to get a dude, hot guy. I'm talking hunk central, blonde hair, blue eyes, full head of hair. We can't be dealing with this shit. We gotta play into what the audience wants. All right, some guy like me, some balding manlet. That's not gonna work. Okay, we need a hot, tall guy, and we need him to go. You know what I mean? And we got to really set up the security cameras and stuff before he goes in there. Get some real good angles. Show that jawline off. Be like, look at his nose. See how perfect his nose is. This is what we got to do. Okay, maybe call like the wherever he's gonna go, the office building before he gets in there, and be like, hey, you guys should put up some new security cameras specifically at this angle, right? And we'll put some marks on the floor for him so where he should stand, right, so that we can get some good angles of him. Be like, God damn, look at those dazzling blue eyes. Could someone with beautiful blue eyes like that, do anything wrong? I don't think so, right? Like these are the necessary steps we need to take in order to properly do eco-terrorism. It's all about the look, son. All right, it's all about the look. That's the reality of the world we live in. We live in a TikTok world. Okay, we got 30 seconds to impress these people. They're not going to listen to the full news story. They're just going to look at a picture of him, see if he's hot or not, and then make a verdict on whether he was right in doing what he did or not. Okay, it's just what we got to do to get the fucking job done. So yeah, any hot hunks out there, and this is why the thing that's going to make this really difficult is like a hot hunk has no incentive to do that, right? Like a hot hunk is just going to like, they're not going to give a shit. It's why like ugly dudes like Ted Kaczynski or whatever, Luigi Mangione be the exception to it all, but it's like it's why ugly dudes are the ones who are doing all that shit. It's why like short little manlets are the ones who change history, right? Because like a short little manlet, he has to go out there and prove himself. He has to really do something to make it seem like he's a man, or to have people perceive him as a man. Whereas like if you're like 6'2", like a hot guy or whatever, you don't need to do all that shit, right? That's why Napoleon wanted to conquer the world, because he was a fucking chubby cheeked little guy. All right, that's why he did that shit. That's why the greatest, I would say, arguably the greatest military commander of all time existed, right? Because we hate manlets. Because short little fat balding manlets like Napoleon are looked down upon. And so yeah, I don't think that necessarily that's a bad thing, right? Like the idea, like that's a big thing. I feel like in the online, like the incel looks maxer dudes, right? Like a big thing that they talk about is how women don't like short men, right? Or like ugly men or balding men or whatever, which is like obviously, obviously women don't like ugly men, but they talk about it like it's a bad thing. And I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it's a very good thing, actually, because nothing is going to give you more of an incentive to go out there and get shit done than pussy, right? Pussy's the ultimate motivator in all things. Everything that's ever been done by humanity has been done for the sake of pussy. You know what I mean? A caveman doing art on the wall. The reason that caveman was doing art on the wall is because he couldn't hunt very good, and so he wasn't getting any pussy. So he was like, me need to think of something new. Me need to think of new way to stand out, to get stinky cave woman pussy, right? Like that's the reason humanity has progressed. Humanity hasn't progressed because tall dudes are out there picking up chicks every weekend. Humanity has progressed because manlets need to prove themselves, right? Nikola Tesla. That guy was out there doing that. Maybe he wasn't necessarily doing it for pussy, but if Nikola Tesla was 6'2" and hot, he wouldn't have been focused on alternating currents or whatever, right? He wouldn't have been focused on that shit. is all I'm saying. And so that's why I think, man, let's ultimately change the course of the world, and why, you know, we're probably not going to get another Luigi Mangione. We're probably going to get another Ted Kaczynski, but hopefully this time Ted Kaczynski does the right thing. I don't know. That was pure nonsense. I was just trying to fill time because we've got some fun news articles to read this week. So this one is from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and this is: DHS ends the abuse of the humanitarian parole process and terminates family reunification parole programs. And like, Trump isn't a conservative. Like, that's the thing about Trump. He's not a conservative. The idea that Trump is in any way a conservative... This guy's been divorced 3 times. He had an affair with a fucking porn star, and he's given trillions of dollars to AI companies. Nothing about that in any way, shape, or form is conservative, right? And like, shit like this kind of just goes to prove that shit so much. But let's read this. So the Department of Homeland Security is terminating all categorical family reunification parole FRP programs for aliens from Colombia, Cuba, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, and Honduras, and their immediate family members. This administration is ending the abuse of humanitarian parole, which allowed poorly vetted aliens to circumvent the traditional parole process. Parole was never intended to be used in this way, and DHS is returning parole to a case-by-case basis as intended by Congress. Ending the FRP program is a necessary return to common sense policies and a return to America first. You can just say things, dude. At this point, I'm just gonna start saying shit and pretending it's true. I know, like, that's kind of the joke that people make about Trump, is where he just says stuff and pretends it's true, but that's really politics as a whole. Politics as a whole at this point is just saying things and being like, no, it's true. No, it's true that I'm America first. Am I doing anything to actually help the people? No. But I'm America first, all right? And the people are the country, by the way. You know, this is... It's just something I've been thinking about a whole lot. It's the people that are the country, and that's not... I'm not the first person to think of this. You know, this is like a 400-year-old, you know, Western European Enlightenment belief or whatever. I don't know, John Locke. I think he was one of those guys that was doing shit like that. But yeah, the people are the country, and I think if we understood that, then we would start throwing people off of buildings and stuff. Not gay people. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like politicians or whatever. We'd start throwing them off of buildings for doing shit. And maybe not this. You know, I don't know if this is maybe the best example of it, but a real conservative would try to conserve family values and not destroy them, right? A real conservative wouldn't instigate the separation of families or whatever. And I know what the counterpoint is going to be. The counterpoint is going to be, well, they shouldn't have crossed the border in the first place, or they shouldn't have been an illegal immigrant in the first place. And it's like, yeah, dude, I get that, but they did it, so we got to find a way to make the best of the situation. Not saying let them live here and do whatever they want. And that seems to be the only two schools of thought when it comes to things like this, right? When it comes to border security, the only two schools of thought are either A, let literally everyone in and let them do whatever they want when they're here. And if you put them in jail, then you're racist. And if you even say you don't like what they're doing, then you're racist, right? Or put machine guns at every single airport and border stop and gun down anyone that isn't purely white. Those seem to be the only two thoughts when it comes to fucking, you know, immigration and stuff like that, right? And I do think immigration is out of control. I don't think anyone reasonable doesn't think that at this point. But and I guess that's the other big news story. I'm not going to read the rest of this fucking article. I'm just not going to do it. But I guess the other big news thing this week was that chick at Cinnabon. And I guess this is like internet, like just purely inflammatory news. But it was that chick at Cinnabon who called that Somalian the N-word, which the Somalians are the new Indians. You know what I mean? Brown is, or wait, black with a big forehead is the new brown with a dot on the forehead. There we go. Thought of one. But yeah, this is that video. If you actually watch the video, they're, like, harassing this woman and being like, "You're sexualizing yourself by not wearing a hijab. You're gonna go to hell," and all that stuff, and then she calls him the N-word. She's like, "You're N-words and I hate you, blah, blah, blah," or whatever. And this is gonna be what Sam Hyde and Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson probably talk about for the next several weeks. But the thing about that situation is you have the right and the left, obviously, on that situation. And the right is being like, that woman was perfectly justified in what she did or whatever, and she should have done it even if they didn't like harass her in the first place, right? She should have called them an N-word even if they weren't harassing her in the first place, right? Like, that's the right's thought on it. The left's thought on it is never say that word ever in any context, and if you do, you should be publicly hung, right? Like, those are the two schools of thought regarding that video. And like, I guess my school of thought about it is, if you're gonna be a bigot towards me, then like, why shouldn't I be a bigot towards you? You know what I mean? Fight fire with fire. Like, they're harassing her because she's a woman and she's acting the way a man would, right? Like, if that makes sense, they're being bigoted towards her. They're saying, you're a woman, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't act like that. Whatever. They were the ones being bigots in the first place. And kind of the left's response to this has been, well, you should just never say the N-word, right? You should never, she's a bigot, right? Like, that's their whole talking point regarding this situation, completely ignoring the fact that she was sexually harassed in the first place. But their whole thing is, well, she was being a bigot. And it's like, they were being a bigot to her first. Like, just like bigotry and like deep rooted beliefs about a certain group of people don't just exist about ethnic minorities or whatever. They exist about women and also men and stuff like that. They exist about every single group of people, right? Like, that's kind of what you have to understand about Somalians, is that in really a lot of these countries, is that the the kind of way black people have been treated in this country is the way women were treated in those countries and still are treated in this country, right? Or in those countries, where they're like these second class citizens who, the idea that you would give them the same rights is insane. The idea that they hold anything of value is insane. Like, that's the idea that these people have regarding women. Are they wrong? I don't know. Might be where I agree with the Somalis, but no, they're obviously wrong about that. And so they're like, what those people did to that woman is no different than me going up to a black person and being like, pull up your pants, you fucking monkey. All right, it's no different. And if that black dude called me a dog fucking pedophile cracker, no one would give a shit. So I get it, the N-word's a bigger deal than cracker or whatever, but I don't know. It's just very weird that was the response from the left, is being like, well, she was a bigot. And it's like, so were the other people. I don't get why you're not mad at, they were being bigots as well. You just can't comprehend the type of bigotry that exists in their culture, because it's just not what you're used to. They were being bigots as well. And she just responded with a little bit more bigotry. And really not even that bad. Like, they were, if you understand the context of this video, they were telling this woman she was going to go to hell, and she just hit him with an N-word, and I hate you. I don't know. Like, being like, you're doomed to eternal damnation, versus just being like, saying one word and being like, I hate you. Like, I don't know. I feel like look, she's like a 40-year-old woman working at a Cinnabon. Is she mentally in a good place? No, she's not. She's probably not a mentally healthy person, but she's also not like the devil or whatever. You know, this bitch is working at a fucking Cinnabon. Then a bunch of big four-headed freaks who just defrauded the country out of like $1 trillion come up, start talking about how she's gonna go to hell. I would be pretty pissed about that. You know what I mean? I would be pretty pissed about that too. Don't know if I would say the full word. I don't know. I tried to be more creative about it. Like, that's what I would at least try to do. You know, I would try to do something like that. Be like, well, I'd rather go to hell than fuck my I don't know. But you got to be a little bit more creative about it. Like, that's my main gripe with that woman, is that she just wasn't creative enough, right? Like, with Somalians, you have all this ammo. You have all this fuel to use against them. And it's like, you're going to use the N-word, and it's like, Somalians aren't even black. Like I feel like if I was black, I would be insulted that she called the Somalian the N-word, not because she said the N-word, but because she implied that Somalians are like black people, right? Like that's the thing that would be insulting to me. It is to associate me with Somalians would be the ultimate insult. It's like it's like with Native Americans. To me, the worst thing Christopher Columbus ever did to the Native Americans was associate them with the country of India by calling them Indians. That's the worst thing he ever did. Once again, with the Cinnabon lady, she's kind of Christopher Columbus in this scenario. The fact that she said the N word really isn't that big of a deal to me. You know, it's just not. They were being a bigot to her, and she was a bigot back. This is America, son. Shit like that's gonna happen. The thing that she did to me that really pissed me, or the thing that she did that really pissed me off was associate black people with Somalians. Somalians aren't black. They're barely even people. No, but they're not. They're not black. I don't know what they are. I don't zero clue what category to put them in. But they're not black people. Maybe there's a few out there. Maybe the ones that live closer to Ethiopia and stuff, you could say are black. But the Somalians are not. Okay, they're just not. So to me, if I was black and I saw that video, I'd be like, she said the N word. All right, whatever. Well, they were being dicks to her in the first place. It's just it's what people get upset. You know what I mean? If you're harassing the person who speaks second, really is almost never wrong in that situation in my mind. You know what I mean? Like if you're just walking up to some random person and just like insulting them, whatever they say back to you, I'm like, whatever, right? It's like if you go up and you sucker punch a random guy in the face and he shoots you in the leg. I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, what a terrible person, he shot you in the leg. I'm gonna be like, fuck no, why the fuck you going up and sucker punching a dude in the face? Why are you doing that shit to that guy? But if I was black, which I'm not, you know, fortunately. Thank the good and holy Lord. No. I don't remember where blacks were on the ranking list, but they weren't at the bottom, so that's what's important. Um, if I was black, the the insult to me would be the idea that I'm at all similar to a Somalian. I'd be like, you really think that's what black people look like? You think they look like fucking Somalians? You think I look like a fucking big four-headed freak with a hairline in the middle of my head? Like that's what you think I look like? You just the idea of being associated with Somalians is just so. Is I don't know if I'd be able to deal with it. Just the country of Somalia, really. Genetically, I don't know. I don't know if I have the conviction to be like racist in that regard, where I'm just like you have inferior genetics to me. But I'm not gonna pretend like the country of Somalia has any value. I'm just not gonna pretend like that's true. I'm sorry, I'm not. It's a failed state. It is literally considered a failed state. It's not even a country, right? The culture is disgusting. Like I said, genetically, I don't know. I'm sure if you raised a Somalian baby in suburban America, they'd turn out fine or whatever. That's not what I'm saying when I hate Somalia and Somalians. What I'm saying is I think that the country of Somalia has a disgusting culture, a vile culture that holds nothing of value, and I don't want them, and I don't want anyone who was raised in that culture or who values that culture in my country. That's what I mean when I say I hate Somalians. And I think that's a big thing that like libs are kind of confused about when it comes to racism, right? Is that yeah, when I say I hate Somalians, I don't mean that they're genetically inferior to me. I'm a 5'2" guy with a balding head, right? And my teeth are all fucked up. I don't think I'm genetically superior to anyone. I get out of breath on the fucking Stairmaster doing 45 steps a minute. I am not under any delusion that I'm genetically superior to anyone, right? What I mean when I say I hate Somalians is that they have a disgusting, vile culture that promotes pedophilia. That's what I mean when I say I hate Somalians. Pedophilia and hatred towards women and just all these things that I find to be vile. That's what I mean when I say I hate them. So, and I don't really even hate them. I don't have the energy for that, but I don't want them in my country either. My country, America's mine. I built this country. I built this country. But no, I just don't want to be around Somalians. I don't feel like that's the most insane thing to say. And if you want to call it racist, just cleared it up for you. So suck my cock. All right, and then this is our second article, and this one's from the BBC. So EU backs indefinite freeze on Russia's frozen cash ahead of loan plan for Ukraine. I mean, we're still doing this shit. We are still doing this whole Ukraine shit. And America has sent over $150 billion to Ukraine. That's such a large amount of money that you can't conceptualize it. You cannot conceptualize the amount of money we've sent to defend some third world non-democratic shithole. You can't comprehend that amount of money. $150 billion is 1,000 payments of $150 million, right? That's what $150 billion is. It's not like some people might think that's 150 times 10. No, it's $150 million times 1,000. That's what $150 billion is. Like imagine 1,000 anything. Imagine if that was spent in America. And I get it. The American government's corrupt, and a whole ton of that money wouldn't actually end up going to the infrastructure project itself or whatever, but just keeping it in this country, it would have done massive things, right? Like if the government way overspends on anything, but still, the government can't play around with $150 billion to the point where they don't get anything done, if that makes sense, right? They can't embezzle that money and like fudge the numbers enough to just completely erase it off the map. With $150 billion, something would have actually gotten done in this country. Wouldn't have been a whole lot, but something would have got done. And so the fact that we sent it to Ukraine is fucking insane. But so the European Union governments have agreed to immobilize indefinitely Russian assets of up to 210 billion euros that have been frozen in the EU since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Most of Moscow's cash is held in Belgium bank Euroclear, and European leaders are hoping to agree a deal at next week's Crunch EU summit that would use the money for a loan to help Kiev fund its military and economy. After almost 4 years of Russia's full-scale war, Ukraine is running out of cash and needs an estimated $159 billion over the next 2. Do they need it though? That's the thing. Do they need $150 billion to defend a few square miles of fucking potato farms? Because that's what Russia wants. That's Russia, even from the bad guy's point of view, they really aren't asking for that much. Give them the fucking potato fields. I get it. Oh shit, sorry, I gotta... Alright, sorry. I got a call from my boy about the shit that I can't talk about. Or I won't talk about. I don't think he would care too much, but it's some shit that went on with him, so I don't want to talk about it, but crazy story. I don't really remember where I was at all. We were talking about Ukraine or something like that. After hearing what I heard, it kind of feels a little weird talking about Ukraine, but I guess it does make sense in this context because we're talking about just people dying over meaningless bullshit. Like that's what this situation in Ukraine is. It's just people dying over complete and utter nonsense. You know, there's a reason why the Ukrainian government is conscripting people at this point because they don't want to fight. The people of Ukraine don't. Same with Russia, but I don't hear about people giving $200 billion to Russia. It's just not what I hear about, right? So that's why I'm on Russia's side, I guess, or Ukraine's side. I don't know, dude. But it's just, it's just people in a different place saying hundreds of thousands of young Ukrainian men should die so that Russia doesn't get access to lithium ion or whatever. Like, that's ultimately what this comes down to. Okay, this last article should be... I don't know. I just heard some shit that wasn't very fun. But this article should help to lighten the mood or whatever. So the Lempumpo DIY prison story went viral. Shame, but it was completely made up. And this is from Brent Lindicay at what's this website called? Good Things Guy. Only good things. I don't know. This might be a South African news outlet. So remember the wildly satirical article about robbers accidentally hijacking a snake transport truck that went viral in July? Well, this one is even wilder and just as much not true. This week's story was the absolutely bonkers account of a 54-year-old or 44-year-old, depending on the post, Limpopo woman who apparently opened her own prison in her backyard and calmly detained drunkards who didn't pay their tavern bills. There were also versions of people being arrested for drunk driving, aggressiveness, and some more crazy stuff in between. It had everything: drama, crime, vigilante justice, gender-based violence interventions, unpaid tabs, and a granny with a plan energy that made people cheer, "Free her, she's doing the Lord's work." Except none of it happened. I looked this article up specifically. I had to ask ChatGPT about it because Google was being a bitch. I was looking up funny African news stories because I knew going into this that I needed something to distract myself. And this is great. Even if it is just a rumor, this is like a good like African rumor. I don't think that this sort of thing, maybe not necessarily African, but I don't think that this could happen in a first world country, right? Like this, if this was a first world country, immediately upon this rumor being started, the police would be called and all this bullshit would happen, and everyone would be like, "Free those people or lock them up or whatever," and then there'd be a riot and a fucking auto zone would get burned down. But in Africa, in a nice third world country like this, they they're just out here like, "Can you believe it? I heard if you go to a tavern and drink too much banana moonshine, you get locked in a jail cell." Like that's it's why I fuck with it so much, dude. All the fucking African dudes with their fat bellies, all the fat bald African guys, the uncles or whatever chilling around, talking about a lady with a prison in her backyard. That's what I came to, or that's what I came here for. That was my intent when I looked up funny African news stories. I was hoping for some sort of like, I remember there was that one a while ago where uh the people of Nigeria believe that their president had been replaced with a look-alike from South Sudan. I was hoping for something like that, but a nice fake story, right? Because like I said, this couldn't exist in America. If this was America, there would be like some dumbass like Snopes or what's the other, like Reuters? Is that the other like fact-checking website? There'd be like some dumbass article from those people being like, "No, this lady didn't start a prison in her backyard or whatever." It would just be it would be so boring and factual and shit, but not with the Africans. The Africans are like, dude, it's like middle school. It's like, dude, I heard fucking. I'm trying to think of a middle school rumor that I heard. I don't. I don't know. I can't really think of one right now. Dude, I heard Judy was like developing a third boob, and then she had it cut off, and that's why she hasn't been at school for the past week, dude. Dude, I heard I heard Josh smashed his penis with a hammer because he was trying to do a TikTok challenge. Like I feel like that's like some middle school rumor type stuff, and like that's something you can imagine being like a serious news story in Africa. All right, I don't know. I can't talk. I can't talk anymore after hearing what I heard. But I hope you guys have a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. Um, God, I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about it next week or whatever, but I'm hoping I can see my boy soon, so I can just talk to him. That's fucking crazy. Have a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.